Yo, what's up guys, it's Clash PR, and one thing that everyone can agree on is that The Walking Dead has a lot of spin-offs, and with making a lot of spin-offs, there's gonna be some that just go unnoticed, and I want to talk about one of those unnoticed ones in today's video because it's actually one that I think is really good despite its huge flaws, and those flaws I'll also be talking about in this video. The spin-off in question is called Fear the Walking Dead Dead in the Water. It's a spin-off to the spin-off Fear the Walking Dead. Anyways, it's a 43-minute web series with 6 parts showing what the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse was like inside of a submarine 600 feet underwater. Hence the title, Dead in the Water. And if that concept isn't cool enough for you guys yet, this web series is also a prequel to the characters Teddy and Riley from Fear the Walking Dead. Teddy and Riley were the ones spearheading the Doomsday cult in Fear the Walking Dead Season 6. And they're the ones behind the mass destruction of Texas in the Season 6 finale, and the entirety of Season 7. But with having all this cool stuff in Season 6, there were also a lot of unanswered questions that I felt needed explaining. First being, how the hell did the USS Pennsylvania just wash up on Galveston, and why? And how did Teddy brainwash his followers, especially Riley, since he seemed like the only somewhat normal person in the whole cult? And how did they even obtain these valuable, very valuable keys that can pretty much wipe out the entirety of America? Remember, these keys held the power to launch 10 warheads from the USS Pennsylvania, and we saw what just one did, basically wipe out the entirety of Texas. So where did they come from? And that's exactly what Fear the Walking Dead Dead in the Water answers. So I'm gonna be recapping it for you guys, and by the end of it, I think you guys will like Teddy and Riley a lot more because their backstories are actually really interesting. Before I get into the recap, I want to explain the central characters to the story so it's less confusing for you guys. The main character of the web series is Jason Riley. That's right, before the outbreak, Riley was a crew member on the USS Pennsylvania, and he was the weapons officer. So that makes a lot more sense for Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, why Riley was such a central character. It's because he actually was on board of that USS Pennsylvania. Another character in this web series is named Pierce. He's Riley's really good friend and his moral compass. He isn't really important, but still, I just want to give him a little character description because it's clear that he was Riley's good friend. And finally, Captain Renwick, the commanding officer on the USS Pennsylvania, and Riley does look up to this guy a lot. Anyways, so we start the web series off showing the crew of the submarine doing launch tests, and Riley actually is the one commanding these launch tests, so he has enough power to actually do the launches, and it's revealed that he has one of the keys that we see in Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead. And these launch tests also explains how he had the knowledge to do it actually in Season 6. And these launch tests are important for another reason. It's because most of the crew is confused as to why they're even doing them, because they're on the Gulf of Mexico, basically where they live. Keep in mind, none of them know as to what's going on at land right now. What they do know though is that they haven't been getting a lot of commands on the radio lately, and later on we do see Riley talking to Pierce about that. They're building suspicion as to why they're doing launch tests and why they're not getting a lot of messages. Anyways, before any of that bad stuff happens, we get some more info on Riley's life when he's talking to Captain Renwick. Captain Renwick fears that Riley's performance hasn't been good the past few days because he's a little bit too stuck up on the fact that he has a baby. That's right, it's revealed that Riley has a wife and son back home, a newborn son, which kind of just makes you like Riley a lot more because he's a family man and he had something to fight for, so it's interesting to see how he turned from that into what he did in Season 6. Riley is really sorry to Renwick because he really wants to be in his position and stuff, so it's clear that Riley easily looks up to people, which can, you know, explain why he followed Teddy, but there's a lot more to it. Anyways, Renwick gives Riley a piece of advice with a quote saying, "Do what needs doing," and I like that a lot because we're gonna hear it later on. Their conversation, however, is interrupted when a crew member tells them that another crew member named Friedman had been fighting appendicitis, and they all knew about this, but he's about to die. And that's not very common to happen, but they hadn't been getting any answers from the medevac, so they had to perform an emergency surgery, and Friedman does end up dying. And Riley talks about it with Pierce in complete anger that no one could reach a medevac on the radio. So yeah, they are starting to question what the hell is happening, but things are gonna get a lot more worse than just being confused. Okay, so after this man Friedman dies, we have a little bit of a happy celebration. Okay, no, I'm just kidding, but they had to put Friedman's body in the freezer where they store food, and since they did that, they had to take out some stuff because his body was taking up space. So they took out all the ice cream, and the entire crew had ice cream sundaes. Yeah, so what a way to enjoy things. Well, not for long, because Friedman does end up turning in the freezer. Anyways, long story short, this man Friedman bites the cook and bites 2 other guys dies, and I don't like this part a lot because, you know, after Friedman attacks 3 of the members, he also starts to attack Captain Renwick, and Captain Renwick shoots him in the chest like multiple times with, you know, doing nothing at all. It doesn't do anything until he's saved by Riley because Riley shot the walker in the head. Now, this is the part that I hate a lot. They just like were kind of shocked as to what happened, but then like Renwick's like, okay, just everybody, you know, patch up and everything, and then they acted like nothing happened. And it goes downhill in terms of making sense from here on out. Riley talks with Pierce in private about what the hell just happened until they're suddenly interrupted by the same crew member that interrupted Riley and Renwick earlier. Yeah, this guy has no manners. I mean, look at him. He's all gross. Oh wait, he's a walker now. Yeah, that's right. This man turned in the span of like 20 minutes. Yeah, that's right, guys. Time goes 100 times faster in this goddamn submarine, and it only gets faster from here. Riley and Pierce are holding this guy down who's just biting at them, so, you know, Riley has no choice but to do what worked before, which was destroying the brain, so he grabs a fire extinguisher and just kills him. Afterwards, Riley and Pierce split up because they're gonna go to the weapons room. Riley makes his way to the silo hall with, like, some other crew members that he meets. They're not really important to the story, so I'm just gonna kind of skip over that part. But this silo hall is filled with walkers, you know. Okay, so now it's been, like, 30 minutes, it feels like, and there's, like, what, like, 50 walkers already? I mean, like, dude, how does that happen? I mean, dude, time is moving at the speed of light at this point, dude. Like, what is going on? Riley makes it to the end of the silo hall, and he's reunited with Renwick and Pierce, and he was also joined by another crew member along the way named McGuire. We saw him earlier in the episode very briefly. He's not very important to the webisode, but he's one of the very few crew members who survives until the end. Anyways, they get into the weapons room, and this dude, Renwick, is a complete paranoid freak now. I mean, he points his gun at them and says, hey, reveal your arms. You guys can't be bit. Like, I'm not gonna be here if you're bit. I mean, he's no longer that do what needs doing badass guy. I mean, he's pretty scary now. None of them are bit, but they finally got their first message printed out in weeks, which are launch coordinates to Chicago. That's right, they've gotten orders to launch nuclear missiles onto their own territory. And Renwick's like, okay, we gotta do this, and he's telling Riley, come on, let's do it. But Riley is refusing. He doesn't want to launch missiles onto his own territory.
I won't do it. Are you refusing orders?
And if you're wondering why Captain Renwick is asking Riley to launch these nukes, it's because on the USS Pennsylvania, I don't know if this is true in real life, but it is in the show, it requires 2 people to launch the nuclear missiles. Each person has to have a key, and Riley, as we know, has one of them, and Renwick has the other since he's the captain. It's physically impossible for one person to do it because the key slots are across the room. So if Riley refuses, there's literally no other way for them to launch the nuke other than have someone else do it in the room, like McGuire or Pierce. But they also back up Riley and say that they're not going to be launching nukes on their own territory. And if you guys didn't know, these 3 crew members are committing mutiny right here, and Renwick points that out, and he threatens to have them all court-martialed. But before he can make more threats, he starts going into a pit of coughing, and we find out he's bit. So Riley has no choice but to put Captain Renwick down, and he repeats the quote earlier that Renwick had told him, do what needs doing. And this part is really important because after he kills Renwick, he also takes the key from Renwick. So now he has both of the keys that gives him the power to launch the nukes. And at this point, like, the entire crew is like pretty much walkers. I mean, there's probably like 10 people left that aren't, and they've had enough of being on this ship. So they strategize a plan to disorient the walkers that are all in the halls and bring them off their feet.
Riley, you there?
Who is this?
It's Walter. Bunch of us made it to the bridge, but now we're stuck.
Hey, Walter. You ever pull a chicken switch?
Oh, y'all better hold on tight.
A chicken switch is on a US Navy submarine, and it's the emergency blow activator. It's the last resort in emergency situations. Throwing the switch immediately blasts large volumes of compressed air into all of the submarine's ballast tanks, bringing the boat to the surface as quickly as possible. And we see a cool shot of what it actually looks like. And after they do it, they all successfully escape, except my boy Pierce. He gets bit in the foot. Riley offers to cut off his foot, like, hey, we could probably still save you, but this is what I don't like also, okay? Pierce is like, no, just let me die. And then he buys Riley time by throwing himself into a crowd of walkers. I don't understand how anyone in the Walking Dead universe does this, because I've seen this multiple times. Like, I'm not gonna spoil actually, but I've seen this with multiple times, guys. Just people just throwing themselves into crowds of walkers. How? Anyway, so now the final crew members are all at the escape hatch of the submarine, and it's only 8 people left. So yeah, guys, like, in the span of 3 hours, fucking, like, I don't know how many crew members, like 150. Now this part's really important because Riley takes off one of his keys and gives it to Walter, who we also see in the season 6 premiere with the key around his neck when Emil was searching for him and then cut his damn head off. And at last, Riley is out of the submarine and it's time to call his wife. And you know, it's the moment of truth to see if she's alive. And she answers. He's so happy that she's fine and she's talking about their baby and all that. And it's just like good vibes. It's like, oh, thank God my wife survived and my kid's alive. And then suddenly we hear banging noises on the phone. Then we hear screaming. Then we hear chewing. And then it's silence. That's right, Jason Riley had to hear his wife and son get eaten alive on a phone call. I'm sorry, but that's just too much. Like, that is horrible. And he obviously falls into a depression, and we get like a time skip of him just being alone with his beard grown out. And he puts a gun to his head. I mean, he's ready to end it all when suddenly...
This ain't it, son.
What?
The end. This ain't it,
That right?
son. This is just the beginning.
And the web series ends there. If you guys ask me, this is the perfect backstory to Teddy and Riley. It really shows the influence that Teddy has on people. He shifted this US naval submarine crewman who had aspirations to be a captain one day and was a new father, had a loving wife, and was a pretty likable guy in general, into pretty much a monster who became a hypocrite of his own beliefs and was willing to kill a lot of people, including himself, so that he could come back as a plant and live on in the soil. It just shows the influence Teddy has on people, and it makes a lot more sense because it's clear that Teddy can easily pick on vulnerable people, especially, you know, Riley. He lost his entire family, so he could just easily, you know, manipulate him with some words and boom, just like that. This whole thing made me like Riley and Teddy so much more because when you rewatch Fear the Walking Dead season 6, their relationship just feels so much more like, it makes a lot more sense. I actually watched Fear the Walking Dead Dead in the Water before watching Fear the Walking Dead, so I thought Riley was gonna survive, but he didn't. But still, their relationship felt realistic. But there's one huge flaw that comes with all of this, and unfortunately with this webisode that I like a lot, but there's a big flaw, okay, and that's with the entire Walker situation. Now let me tell you something, if this virus is airborne, or even if it's man-made, how the hell did it reach these submarine crew members who are 600 feet underwater? Because think about it, these guys have been in the submarine for multiple weeks. Whether it's man-made or if it is a virus, none of them should have caught it. Realistically, if this virus started, it would have started and then immediately, you know, started making people turn. So it probably took like a day, right? But they've been in there for weeks, so how? I mean, the only logical explanation would be that the virus started early and that it takes weeks to mutate and then actually kill people. But even then, it doesn't explain how everyone on the submarine literally turned in like 2 hours. But The Walking Dead has done so many twists, so I can't even tell you guys if it's a plot hole that the fact that all these people turn in like 2 hours, because there could genuinely be a reason they make up as the virus just like moves faster under land. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below, and for those that have watched it, let me know if you guys agree that you guys like it, and if you guys haven't watched it, I really recommend you do. It's on YouTube. I'll link it down below. Even though I just recapped it for you guys, I've watched it like 3 times. I still enjoy it every time. You guys should definitely watch it. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and peace.